Started here. There we go. All right. Welcome everyone. I almost said good morning. It's officially noon, so good afternoon. My name is Kristen Allen. I'm the director of marketing and development here at the Mentoring Partnership, and I'm joined by my awesome colleagues Ashley and Sophia. We're thrilled that you're joining us over your lunch break, and appreciate you taking the time to tune in as we're talking about mentoring and youth mental health. May is Mental Health Month, so it's very timely, although it's a conversation that we encourage everyone to have year-round with their young people. So we're just excited that you're tuning in to learn more about some new resources that we have to kind of just help you continue to frame up relationships and youth mental health in your programmatic efforts. I'm going to slide us over. There we go. Slide over to the next slide. So I know there's a lot of people joining us on the call today. If you want to pop your name and program in the chat, that might be great, just so that we can see who's all here. And then a little later, as we sort of get into more of the Q&A and brainstorming session, we can also introduce each other then. But we'll keep things moving forward for now, just for the sake of time. Just a quick overview of the agenda. So we are going to talk about the Mentoring and Youth Mental Health Guide that the Mentoring Partnership has been working on for a little while and just launched this month in honor of May and Mental Health Month. And then we also have an accompanying program checklist that was a result of that project as well, which is really exciting. And customized technical assistance is the name of the game for the Mentoring Partnership as well. I think some of you on the call are familiar with that service that we offer, but Ashley will share a little bit more about that, just to give an overview for those of you who are not. And then we'll end with questions and more of like a knowledge share brainstorm. This is really a casual session, so it's over everybody's lunch break. So if you have lunch that you would like to eat while we're going through things, that's great. Feel free. But again, we just appreciate you taking the time. All righty. So let's get started just with the guide first. And I know Ashley's going to pop a link to that in the chat if you haven't seen it yet. It is on our website. You'll see the cover here. This was really something that was born out of the Mentoring Partnership evolving services. When the pandemic first came upon all of us, it took a while to adjust. We were really responding to a lot of inquiries from programs that were looking for ways that they could keep continuity of services and kind of just keep tabs on their young people. But then as we started to move through the pandemic, one of the things that we were really hearing was that programs needed support around how mentors could help young people with their mental health and with promoting positive mental health and well-being. So as we really started navigating what our role looked like in that conversation, it obviously, focused on relationships and the role that relationships play is kind of that protective factor for young people, and the critical role that relationships play in helping young people develop social and emotional skills that can sort of help them, with healthy attitudes and approaches to their mental health. So we have been fortunate to partner with a lot of different organizations in the community, including Jewish Healthcare Foundation, on different sessions around mental health just over the last couple of years. And that really gave us kind of the kickstart and the idea to create a guide that we could share far and wide. It is available in English and Spanish on our website for download. We also do have a limited amount of print copies available. If that's something that would be helpful for you, you can definitely, ping us offline. We're happy to mail some to you. But I will say that I want to say that the guide was made possible thanks to Staunton Farm Foundation. They are doing a lot of really great work to support mental health and mental wellness in our community and beyond. So this was just a really great opportunity for the Mentoring Partnership to team up with them to create this guide. If you haven't downloaded the guide yet, please do. But if you have and you've kind of taken a quick look through, you'll see that we kind of approached it from a few different angles. So obviously information and tips, and just really focusing first on the role of caring adults and how they can support positive youth mental health and well-being. the ways that they can plug in and the ways that they should not plug in, as far as just understanding, what they can do to support positive youth mental health. We also included some program spotlights from programs, here in Pittsburgh that are doing innovative work to connect young people to mental health resources and, supporting young people as they kind of navigate mental health challenges. So it was really great for us. I always tell people one of my favorite parts of my job is that I get to see mentoring happening in so many different ways in the community. As we were putting together this guide, that was another really cool thing that was clearly evident, was that there are a lot of organizations that are doing really great work on the youth mental health front, and they're all doing it in different ways. So it was really great to see that come together. So you'll see some program spotlights in there. We'll also see youth voice and youth perspective in there. I mean, I think that's something, as we are, we're all in this line of work, that's something that we want to preserve and that we want to amplify and elevate, is youth voice. And so you'll see everything from artwork all the way to some of the call outs that are included in the guide have all come from young people that are involved in programs that are helping to advocate for youth mental health and wellness. There's a teen mental health collaborative that is comprised of a group of amazing young people who that's their job. They are advocating for youth mental health and wellness both locally and nationally. So it's, we didn't want to lose that piece as far as highlighting youth voice. So you'll see that throughout the guide as well. And then you'll also see at the very end of the guide a resource list, both locally and nationally, just a bunch of resources and toolkits that we've compiled that have been helpful to us as we've sort of been, navigating this journey, and that we think will be helpful to others as well. I want to point out, and I did include this on the slide on purpose, that the list is not meant to be exhaustive. So I know we'll get into a situation at some point where someone will say, you didn't include my organization on this list. We could have written an entire guide with 50 plus pages of just resources, because as I mentioned earlier, there are a lot of organizations doing really great things and developing really great resources. So it was hard to choose, but we narrowed down just to what we think is a good starting list for resources locally and nationally that can help to connect young people with mental health resources, but then also just to center that lens through programmatic work just that we're doing. So that's kind of an overview of the guide in general. And Ashley, thank you for sharing the link. I think I saw that come through. I'm catching up on the chat here. I'm not good enough to kind of toggle between both, but that's kind of the guide in a nutshell. So I want to turn it over to Sophia to talk a little bit about a program checklist, which was kind of just, it was an add-on to the guide that really made sense, and we're excited because it sort of provides an actionable framework for the information that we included in the
So good afternoon, everybody. I am Sophia Duck with the Mentoring Partnership, the Training and Engagement Manager, and it's so great to see so many names and organizations that we work with regularly. So I know that some of you are a little newer to the organization, or I haven't specifically met you in the training. So just as a reminder, as an intermediary organization, we don't directly work with young people. So a lot of this was our way of intentionally trying to help think through the process of supporting your young people on a regular basis. And since our relationship with the Jewish Healthcare Foundation allowed us an opportunity to provide that series of thinking about mentoring and youth mental health last year, we really wanted to think about how to help support every caring adult that's in a mentoring program or a mentor like those everyday spaces, to think about how we're supporting young people. So on the screen is a tab-sized picture of this checklist. So we're not asking you to read it, but we really have some thoughts around how we can be really supportive of our young people and their mental health. I also, while we talk about mental health right now, just want to take a pause for a second. Just learning that a young person was shot by a peer at Oliver School today, and how that may affect our programs today, and even us, right? Especially if you know the young person on either side of the shooting this morning. is again just what this is going to do for us in our programs today, right? So are we thinking about having a conversation today? And maybe you just heard that for the first time from me just now. Um, but really recognizing that our young people are experiencing life in a very different way than some of us did, but it is also affecting them, the pandemic, social media in different ways than we did. So according to Mental Health First Aid, 1 in 5 young people will experience some type of mental challenge. And we think that this number actually may increase as a result of the past couple years and all the trauma that our young people have been facing. Um, a lot of violence in our communities as of late has led to, again, just thinking about our impact as adults. So this checklist is here for us to think about how we can intentionally work with young people. So the 2 questions on the screen are, what are we doing to support positive youth mental health and well-being, right? What are the intentional activities? What are the circles that we're providing? What are the questions we're asking? What spaces are we opening up for young people to talk and communicate? And then the second question on the screen is, how can we be more intentional in these efforts? So as you look at this checklist, and those of you that are um, going to, so as Ashley talks in the next slide about the ways that we can support you all by doing some intentional technical assistance around this, is really thinking about how our youth mental health first aid training can be helpful. Our everyday and our mentoring 101 training both have components in it now that speak to youth mental health, and really thinking about the idea of sharing power and how respect is at the top of the idea of the Search Institute's developmental relationship framework, and thinking about sharing power with young people is understanding who they are, what they need, and acknowledging them in that moment. So when we think about the trainings that we're offering here at the Mentoring Partnership, we've intentionally made a shift to be focused on how to empower your volunteers, staff, and team to have conversations with young people and to be mindful of the fact that our young people may not know how to communicate what they're feeling or what's going on. I just sat in on a grief and loss training earlier today, and just thinking about the fact that loss isn't just um, death of somebody, but also just the fact that we're moving from the school year to summer, and the loss of that routine, the loss of activity with friends, sports, and things like that is also something that may affect our young people's mental state. Um, so again, just an opportunity for us to really think about how our program is supporting young people because of their physical and emotional responses to just change in mental health, the trauma that they're experiencing. So with that, I'll allow Ashley space to talk about how we can support you all with our other services here.
Hello. If you haven't met me, my name is Ashley Wineland. My pronouns are she, her. I'm the Program Operations and Special Projects Coordinator at the Mentoring Partnership. So I'm a part of our programs team with Sophia and do a lot with no-cost support and capacity building for programs. And I know Sophia mentioned the number of trainings that we have, and that's one area of support that we offer at no cost. And then we also offer customized technical assistance. And I know that some of your programs have already worked with us through technical assistance, and you still can, or if you're new to it. So it is customized, no cost support. It is individual for you, with your program, for your program, and you'll work with a technical assistance provider on specifically what your program needs. And so here I've included on the slide a couple of examples related specifically to the guide and the checklist around mental health. And so like Sophia said, if you need training, but maybe you need training that's customized for your program, your young people are going through something specific, or you're having specific conversations, or your program just like looks a little bit different than others, then we can customize those trainings. Um, we know that programs, you all work very hard and you have a lot on your plates. Capacity is often an issue. And so with technical assistance, we can be an extra person kind of for a little bit to help lift some of that load and build some of the capacity for maybe some of the things that you like want to do or are trying to do, and sometimes just also like an ear to bounce off of, to help dig up additional resources, um, or sample documents, or create different things. And so, in addition to training, we can help develop resources. So, we've had programs who develop flyers, or brochures to give to their mentors, their mentees, their families, that share resources or like information about like mental health, or just start conversations. Um, well, you can, a lot of you probably give out like surveys or check in or have meetings with your mentors and mentees. So if you're looking to revamp that process a little bit to include some questions to start to understand, what your young people are going through, what your mentors are going through, then we can help revamp that process to include some of those measures so you can learn more about that. Um, We've helped programs design curriculum and to have intentional conversations around like mental health and well-being. And also, um, closely related to mental health is, um, like Krista mentioned, youth voice, inclusivity, and like accessibility. And so just looking at our programs, evaluating our programs and their design to see how we can frame our program and design our programs to ensure those healthy outcomes for young people. Um, so, but that is not an exhaustive list. We can, if you have something in mind, mental health or generally, that your program needs support with or that you want support with, we are here to help. And like I said, this is at no cost. I think last year we supported programs and delivered over 1,000 hours of no cost support, to programs, and we have a full team to help do it. So, if there are questions about it, or anything specific, I'm happy to answer, either in the chat or you can email me independently. Um, my email address is up there, but I'll include it in the chat as well. Or if you're interested in support, maybe you go over that checklist and want to find some things in there that you would like to focus on. That's a great place to start with this too. And then you can reach out to us.
Thank you. So, as far as kind of our focus on this lunch and learn, it really was just an opportunity to get conversations started, or, depending on what your program's doing, continue conversations and thoughts around how we can more intentionally center youth mental health and well-being in our programmatic efforts. So, we did a quick overview of the guide, and hopefully you all download that and just kind of take a look at it. Like I said, if you would prefer to have a hard copy, you can definitely, I'll put my email in the chat. You can let me know that and we can send that to you. The program checklist is a download on the website as well. And it really is designed just to, it's not by any means meant to be a diagnostic tool. It's more just, let's get a baseline of what we're already doing and how we might be able to, amplify those efforts a little bit more. And that's where, we stand ready to help with any of that. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing right now and just open it up to questions or even just thoughts for what you all are seeing as far as mental health needs of your young people or your mentors, or questions you have about that programming, challenges you're facing, any and everything. Does anyone want to maybe kick us off just with a question or comment? Feel free to unmute, pop it in the chat.
Hello, everyone. I've been noticing, like, on our male mentoring program we run, that's coming to an end soon, that most of the kids have stated that they don't have, like, I guess, confidence, and or they're dealing with, I guess, trying to see where they fit in at and everything else. And I've been trying to understand, like, which ways that we can attack it to help them understand it. But it was like a majority vote. Like, we had like 17 kids that day. There's like 15 out of 17 that stated that it's confidence and being motivated as well.
Yeah, and I think to Sophia's point too, I mean, young people have to deal with so much more than maybe we did when we were growing up, right? I think social media is one of those big players in part of the equation. We address a little bit about social media and boundaries in the guide, but I know if you don't follow the U.S. Surgeon General on social media, you should. I mean, we do, and he's been sharing a lot about youth mental health, obviously in the lens of Mental Health Month this month, but the Surgeon General's office just put out a big report about the impact of social media on teens specifically. And Dorian, to your point, of that was addressed a lot in it, was just that how much it can impact self-esteem and confidence. So it's just really interesting to hear. And I think there were, as we continue going through that Surgeon General report, there was just a lot of things that I was bookmarking along those lines as well. So if you haven't looked that up, definitely, I'll see if I can find a link to it as we're chatting here.
All right, I'll for sure look that up. Thank you so much.
And then Dorian, I was just going to add to that wonderful point. Thank you for sharing that with everybody. But it definitely sounds like those are young people that need some power, right? So how can we create spaces or give them opportunities to feel included, or give them wins, right? Small wins. So as a coach, I'm very aware of the athletic ability of some of my young people who aren't going to be the starter, who aren't going to be the first person to get a kill or a block. But when there's an opportunity for them to shine in a drill, I'm intentional to give them that moment and then celebrate it, right? So trying to think of the things that we can do to give them those ones that will hopefully increase those confidence skills and with you, which will then trickle over to other places. So
Sophia, this is Dr. Jones. I was thinking that you're going to have your highlight reel in the background while you're talking, because you're a pretty tough baller back in your day. Do you share that story with a lot of your colleagues? How, I mean, your name was, you should, don't be bashful. She was mean as you can find it on the court. I didn't know she was this nice. After got to meet her, because she did not smile on the basketball court, and she didn't play. So I wanted to mention that because I know it's a part of your legacy that helps create who you are. And I know that a lot of folks think about, what do our City League kids do when they go through the challenges of growing and maturing? And I think Sophia is a great example coming from the City League and graduating and doing some great work. But that was not my question. I wanted to invite a lot of my staff to be on here, because we swear by mentoring partnerships. We have had a long relationship with you guys, and we appreciate everything you do. One of the things that I was thinking about, and why I wanted them particularly to be on this call, is that, as you all know, mental health right now is almost like you say anything in mental health. You know what I mean? It's a conversation piece. It's a part of the narrative. It is the root of a lot of people's anxiety, people's challenges, their issues on the day-to-day, microaggressions to longstanding, challenges to people's identity or people's ability to navigate complex social issues. We talk about having these conversations. People really today can't even have a conversation, without someone disliking what you say and creating, some type of negative barrage. So my question is this: are you all developing a way to work with organizations that need someone to come out and just talk about civility, talk about how to avoid microaggressions, talk about how to function in this multi-racial, multi-ethnic, multi-religious, multi-gender environment that sometimes is more detrimental to a lot of the young people's ability to function. I mean, it's just like, we just see it happen on a regular basis. So we don't need to take it for granted that kids can talk to each other, or peers can share information that might be unpleasant with someone, whether or not that's an adult, purchasing something at the store, or talking to the parents without, getting, blowing up into these episodes that sometimes have police called, or some type of, just because of the baggage and the issues they're facing. So my question I'm trying to get to is that how can you all help us to be active and be available when we have meetings? Talk to the kids about how to be respectful and mentally aware of your triggers and how you can deal with those before the situation happens. Because a lot of times, when it's happened, it's over with. You know what I mean? It's already on Facebook, and social media has it, is running with it, and we try to, grab it back and get a hold of it. But in many cases, the damage is already done. They're going to get that person. We have kids who come to our office and they said, I need to be here for a while because there's money on my head, or somebody said they're going to get me after school. And these things are planned in advance. I'm getting you after school. I'm calling my boyfriend, my cousin, my brother's coming to get you. How do we have kids address those things? So I'm going to shut up and let a couple of you all respond to that, if you don't mind.
Yeah, so Dr. Jones, thank you. And before I acknowledge, my sisters were way better athletes than I am, so I let them shine. But I appreciate your comments. So there's 2 trainings that we offer. One is our boundaries conversation. That for young people, I was technical assistance with another organization, and we made that really focused on young people understanding the boundaries. So like, there are jokes that are just not funny. And you are insulting somebody, which then leads to people wanting to put hands on each other, or going even further, which may have what escalated earlier today. But just thinking about how we need to acknowledge what our boundaries are, and even our friendships aren't as solid as I remember having friends. Because again, there's a lot of intentional poking that happens that is not funny. So that was one thought that I had, is that we have adapted a youth specific boundaries conversation through technical assistance that we can offer. We also have a cultural humility training that we talk about microaggressions, and we offer conversations about how to stand up when you hear a microaggression. So microaggression is a word that I didn't even know what it was when it was happening to me years ago. And I was awkwardly in a moment, like, how do I respond to that? Or what do I say? So we're able to offer those tools to say, this wasn't a cool statement at all. Or do you know the history of why that's not a good thing to say to somebody? So those are 2 trainings where we can do it. And again, going back to just Ashley's conversation about technical assistance, we're able to adapt things. So maybe you want a piece of this boundaries conversation, a piece of this cultural humility training, and then we'll talk about sharing power and make that something that's customized just for you because of what your young people need to talk about.
Perfect. And so we'll have Meredith and Dr. Sinnix and some of our folks start to schedule, because we have these meetings, with our gender specific meetings. Our guys meet on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Sometimes our girls meet on Thursdays. And so we want to be able to have the experts in the room, people who have some training, who have some certification, who can help us. Because as we work with these kids, what we find too is that they love coming to us and they benefit a lot, but we're not able to get to what's really some of the root issues that they might be facing, because we look at their grades. Their grades aren't good. Sometimes their family situations aren't good. but they're looking to us as an oasis, a kind of place to get away, when we in fact would like to be able to say, okay, you're going to get away to us. Now let's help fix you. Let's help engage you with some of these demons that are driving you and some of your peers. And the other thing too, and this is, I want to get real quickly about this, and I know someone else probably has something to say, but we had several kids who were working through some grief issues. And we did a lot for them, even giving them a job at the office, working with them. But they just came up one day and said, hey, we're not going to do it anymore. And so they disappeared. And we don't know if they disappeared because they were helped, or they disappeared because they had a job or something else to do. But, sometimes when the kids need us the most, that's when we're not able to really help them, because sometimes we don't know what's grabbing them. So the other thing is, how do we identify some of these issues that these kids are carrying around, so that we can program that into our criteria, into our observation, into our ability to identify what they need. So someone help me out with that, if you don't mind.
Yeah, so one of the questions on the checklist is like, how do you identify space, like to check in with your young people? And I'll just use myself as an example, right? Like, I know that at the beginning of every practice, as young people are walking in the room, one, I'm surveying the way they look, like who are they talking to, who's not talking to each other. And then we circle, and I'm like, hey, how was school today? How do you guys feel? I know that you all had AP chemistry test today, like, and looking around at them, like giving that intentional space. And sometimes it's awkward, especially in the beginning of the year for a lot of my student athletes. And they're just staring at me like, can we start running? Like, what are we doing here? But as the year goes on, like, they start to really, yeah, coach, today this happened, and I this happened. And I learned so much more as the end of the season comes to, like, they needed that time for me to just check in with them. So between me and the rest of the coaching staff, there's also that, hey, while we're doing this drill or this stretching activity, if you need to talk to her, me, him, pull us to the side, like you can pull yourself out of the stretch, and like giving those intentional spaces for them to do that, I think is where they are more open. But it does take time. Like, they have to, that trust is important. They have to know that you actually do care. So even when it doesn't work in the beginning of the year and it's awkward, I keep holding the space, so that then they understand that I really do want to know if there is something going on.
Perfect. I want to put Dorian and Rich on notice here. Dorian and Rich, how do you all identify when kids are going through something, when the guys are there? Is there indicators you're looking for, or some type of behaviors that you observe, or give us some feedback on that?
Well, me personally, I look, it's body language. Most kids that we deal with that come in Tuesdays and Thursdays, there's a routine that they do most of the time. And if they stray away from that routine, and then body language, if they're more reserved today and they don't have much to say, or they're not participating in the beginning, then I take the time out. And like, if someone would go to the bathroom, I'll pull them to the side real quick and ask them what's going on. Most kids will tell me, but if not, then I don't bug them about it, and I'll keep a mental note of what's going on. Then I'll check in with them. I have most of their numbers, so I'll check in with them like later on that night, like after everything's done, like before I go to bed or whatever, just to see if they're all right and everything else with that.
Perfect. Rich, can you help us out if you have another method of doing that?
No, it's the same process. If I see them with their type of body language, or if like we're doing some type of like activity and they're not engaged with the situation, I'll pull them to the side and see what's going on. Just like my colleague Dorian said, we have all our students' numbers and stuff like that. Even if we have a programming and I catch them before we send them home on like the bus or like a lift, I'll pull them to the side, because that's a one-on-one conversation we should have with the students, just to pick their brain and see what's going on at home in different situations. Because sometimes they could be, it gets to the point of like they're going through some things at school or grades, or even if maybe they think they're going home and there's no food at home or something like that. So we try to provide those services to help them out.
I'm wondering, do you think they'd benefit from the session that Mentoring Partnerships has shared with us today?
For sure. Yes. Both of them, actually.
Okay, awesome. So we'll try to get them scheduled. Go ahead.
For Wellness Wednesdays, I think everyone in the Learn to Earn program might be able to benefit from it as well, if you can get that in it as well.
Perfect. That's good.
I had a question for so basically a lot of times we run into when we have our mentoring sessions, I say a lot of students they gravitate towards negativity. So we could promote like positivity, like let's get on these grades or let's do positive things in their life. But it seems like it only takes like one person in the group that will spill out some negativity and the whole group like gravitates towards that. Like if y'all could answer that question, if y'all ever dealt with that situation, how do y'all deal with situations like that?
I'll start and just say, I think, it is definitely hard because you want to keep everyone in a positive mindset, but you also, you don't want to minimize feelings, right? Like if you're creating space for a check-in, all feelings are valid and you want to leave space for them to share and be truthful. And to Sophia's point earlier, that can take time. It takes time to build up that trust. And so to kind of sort of want to brush away the negativity and focus on positive might not be the best way and might kind of undermine some of that, that relationship building and trust building that you're working toward. But I mean, yeah, I think it's important to leave space for all those feelings, but then maybe focus on, okay, we've got the negative out of the way. Let's focus on one positive thing, or how can we kind of turn the tide a little bit? And I'll throw it to Ashley and Sophia if you all have anything to throw in. But I know just in my experience, that's been helpful.
Yeah, so the one thing you can do is and I'm just thinking about ways I've done, like we do like a highs and a low, right? So yeah, I expect there to be something that you're not, but is there anything that you are looking forward to, right? So to acknowledge that we're always being challenged by something, but are we all ever looking forward to something? And it is easy to tend to jump on the negative. Like I think about whenever a fight starts, like everybody who runs to see the fight, like nobody's running to go get a teacher or an administrator, right? Like you're right, there is a tendency to go towards the negative. But yeah, like sometimes for us, and I'm just thinking about like when I'm with my young people, the day after a loss, like there's nothing positive. And even as a coach, I'm like, we just need to get back in on this drill here. But really intentional to where did you see growth? Where did somebody do something that we weren't expecting to do, or is there something that you felt stronger about because this happened? So just trying to find, and I don't want to say like silver line things, but what else can we talk about? And I start some sessions with an inspirational quote. I'm like, hey, how does this make you feel now that you've heard this before we talk about the loss the day before? So just trying to get them to change their mindset in the beginning could help us. But this is something we can all have a brainstorming session about and think about ways to do that. But those are some things that just immediately came to mind for me.
Yeah. And pulling too from the chat, I mean, sometimes, like we all need to vent sometimes, and that's okay. And I think just also the reassurance that it's normal to feel discouraged or frustrated or upset. But then, to Sophia's point, like what are you looking forward to? What are you excited about? And kind of trying to turn that around. I thought earlier in the chat too, Susie, it's hard when you pull students to have a private conversation and they tell you pretty heavy stuff, knowing what the right thing to say is as an untrained, unlicensed person in mental health support. That's a really great and important point, Susie. And that's something we talk about in the guide a lot, is that most of us are not, mental health professionals. And it's important, we're all caring adults. We all want to support young people and be there for young people, but it's important for us to understand what that looks like and when additional professional support might be needed. I think as caring adults, it's important for us to be there and to reassure young people that we're there and to be a listening ear. But if you're ever in a situation where you're even partially thinking like, oh my gosh, I'm not sure what to say, or this sounds like a bigger problem that might need professional support or resources, that's the role that you're playing there, is a connector to those resources. And Sophia, you had responded to that kind of, you have to check yourself to see if you're the best person to do a check-in. I don't know if you want to elaborate a little bit more on that, because I think it is really important for all of us to just, consider, knowing that the majority of us are not licensed or trained in mental health.
Yes, I think oh, go ahead, Ashley.
I was going to say one thing that I thought of when you said that, Kristen, too, and I'm sure everyone like thinks about this, but knowing our status as mandated reporters, and making sure young people know that too, because if we're mandated to report something, but they don't want that reported, then they should know that we can like direct them to other people potentially, or like where they can go, because they shouldn't. It's a tough thing for them. I wouldn't want anything disclosed that I would have to report that they didn't want reported. So just being clear about our boundaries, like mandated boundaries, like ahead of time, to keep that trust going. But yeah.
Well, I appreciate that feedback. Thank you.
Just as another tangent, and I'm going to try and spit this out before the construction starts, but they just came back from their lunch break, luckily. Anyhow, I know too, like during our recruitment and our training with the Mentoring 101 training, with mental health, as the discussion comes up and the questions come up, we don't want to scare people away. Sorry. Because we don't want them to think that they need to be professionals to volunteer. We just are looking for common people. They don't need to have any special trainings. They don't need to have any special licensures or anything. But if, like you said, the situation arises where the mentee would need extra support, extra help, extra things, put on their path, then we let the mentors know, just please, reach out to us as specialists, and we can hopefully link you into the community supports that are out there with the professionals. So it's almost like you want to put it out there, but you kind of want to reserve it a little bit because you don't want to scare people away thinking they need to be professionals to be a volunteer mentor too.
Yeah, agree. And then that's where the guide comes into play too, right? Is that they have that as a handy resource to then maybe go with the young person. Like, hey, I heard about this organization. Do you want to go? When you make the phone call, I can be here. Like that could be a way to be a huge support for them. And we share that in our youth mental health first aid training as well. Like we want to provide resources because we can't, like I can't address a lot of things that the young people tell me. I'm like, I don't know what to say because I'm not trained in this space, but I hear what you're going through. And it does sound like this is something that is a huge concern and I want to support you, right? So because of that, this is somebody that I trust and I know that they can probably support you, right? And then being able to make a warm handoff, as I said, is a great way to do that. And Brenda and I appreciate that you are very upfront with that about your mentors in the beginning, because that's a good way to keep them and to remind them that you're there to support them throughout the process.
And then just to add to that is, I don't know what everybody else has experienced in their areas and, where people are kind of from, but I know here in Erie, it seems like if we do have a mentee who's going through a crisis and you're like, okay, well, here's who you need to reach out to. We are dealing with horrible, horrible wait lists to get kids in to be evaluated or to be on medications or to meet with a professional psychiatrist or psychiatrist, just to have that help. And that's also very frustrating, but that's not really our area of expertise. And I really wish that that can soon be cured of getting more resources available. But everywhere is so short-staffed and there's no resources for these young people when they're going through a crisis. Oh, sorry, can your crisis be put on hold for 3 months? It's really hard.
Yeah, and that's, I think that's where advocacy comes in. I mean, I think that's going to be a long game as far as just making sure that, that resources are there and that there are staff to assist in the various organizations and entities that are dealing with that. I will say that, there are a lot of programs locally, and Brenda, I know you're in Erie, but looking for programs that are addressing some of those needs in an innovative way. Ashley and Sophie, I'm thinking of Upstreet, and just knowing that they have a text line that is confidential, that you don't need insurance for, but it's a way to plug young people into support more immediately and kind of remove some of those barriers. So that's definitely something to look into in your own community. We have some of those resources listed in the guide, but there are entities out there that are trying to do things to kind of remove some of those barriers to access.
This is absolutely great conversation. I have two comments. Maybe there are questions I don't know yet until they come out of my brain here. But from the standpoint of the long game, to me, that's what everybody ought to be aware of. A lot of people right now are just trying to make the fix happen automatically. You know what I mean? Okay, we got money. Let's address gun violence. It didn't start overnight. It's not going to stop overnight. So we really have to be patient. Get a process in place and stick to that process. So that's what you said, Kirsten. Is it Kristen?
Got it.
Kristen. Yeah, sometimes it's Kirsten and sometimes it's Christian. So I'll say Kristen. Okay, good. Well, the idea of the long game. The second thing is give us an idea, for example, if we're going to engage technical assistance over a 6-week program, so to speak, how often would your program presentation go on? Is it 1 hour, 2 hours? Is it 30 minutes each time over 6 weeks? Give us an idea of the range of your program assistance you would provide. I know you said you don't do programs for young people, but still, this is pretty specific, so we'd probably need your expertise to help us as we do what we do well, but we don't do this that well because we're not the trained experts. So help me understand what a program timeline would be if we said, okay, sign us up for one of your programs. Sophia?
Yeah, so I can talk about the programming side of it, but Ashley can talk through the process to actually get technical assistance. There's two parts of that. So Dr. Jones, this is completely customized. If you want me to come in and do a half-hour session every week for 6 weeks, then that's what we will do. As long as my schedule can accommodate the same 30-minute session. But yeah, so it's whatever you need that you think will be helpful for your young people and or caring adults in the program. And I just want to go back. So we don't provide, we don't have a mentoring program through our office, but we do work with young people. So I just want to make sure that I clarify that statement. So then Ashley, do you want to talk about like the process of?
Yeah. So, to receive technical assistance at no cost, there's a short application, and then we have to go through, I help guide you through that. It's very short. And then there are some quick forms, and then we draft up an MOU or description of how we're going to support. I nail down kind of those needs and what it is, what you need support with, how we're going to support you. And then detail that up.
I have not received a bill yet, so I'm
okay. And then from there, once the MOU is approved by everyone, then we carry out that plan. And then typically a technical assistance request needs to be completed within about 6 months. And we're often working with a certain number of hours within that specific request that we keep track of. And that's, sorry, I lost my train of thought. I glanced at the chat and then it all went out. But anyway, so we're transparent about that from the front. And then if it turns out we go through the request, we like work with you about we finished all of the things that we talked about doing, and then other needs are identified later, then we can do a new request as well. So we are always, there's no limit to a certain amount of time, but it may need to happen in like subsequent requests.
So the long and the short of it is that we customize it to what exactly you need. So we have a full training curriculum and we have that basis, but our team is very intentional, and I'll toot Sophia and Ashley's horns that they are just really great about sitting down with a program, listening to exactly what, Dr. Jones, you had mentioned, like, hey, this could work for our youth. We have Wellness Wednesdays. If you have a specific time constraint in mind, that like, hey, this would be great because our kids are already here. We will do our best to schedule training around that and to kind of pull in elements to make sure that the training fits specifically what your staff and your youth need. So that's one, arc is the training side of things. And then technical assistance is another service. And that is, more intensive as far as getting program staff involved. And to Ashley's point, those requests typically happen over 6 months, but we work very closely with program staff too, just to make sure we're arranging meetings at mutually convenient times and that we're really, staying on track as far as keeping that technical assistance moving forward. So yeah, I'll give a shout out to our program team because they're excellent, and we have a ton of providers as part of our consultant network that all do really great things. They're just really smart people that are really great about strategy. I see Miss Marilyn in the chat sharing. Thank you for those kind words. And I also see that your hand's raised, Miss Marilyn, so go ahead.
I just wanted to add, it is invaluable. They get to know you, get to know your program, work with you with your needs. Things change, they're adaptable to that, and how the person or people that they match with you is also customized. They seemingly have that sense, my praise to the team at Mentoring Partnerships, that they have worked with me since the beginning of my organization. We are 7 years old, and how, working with me directly and or matching me with someone who provided those services was spot on. It's just been great. Sophia's done training for us. Ashley has worked with me directly. I haven't worked with Kristen yet, and that's coming. But it's great. I mean, I sing their praises throughout the city. Anyone I meet with, I just had a meeting this morning and they asked me, well, who's going to do some training? I have some new mentors. And I told them, Mentoring Partnerships. That's who's doing it, and providing. And that's why, another reason why I asked about the information, because I have new mentors come in. I want them to have this information about mental health. But sign up for it. You can't go wrong. If you use it one time, it will be, invaluable to you, even if it's just once. But like I said, because they customize it, if you have different needs that come up, they're going to make sure that to the best of their ability, that they're going to help supply or provide those services either directly or indirectly with matching you with someone.
Marilyn, thank you so much. I will give a shout out to, knowing we have about 4 minutes left. If you've been to our website lately, you may have noticed that it looks different. So we did just revamp the website, and there are a couple things just to quickly point out that might be helpful for everyone on the call. So the training section has been completely revamped. So you're able to, there's a help me choose option, which can kind of help to drill down which trainings might best fit your needs. But then you can also search those by topic or audience as well. So that'll give you kind of an easy way to get, kind of the full depth and breadth of our training curriculum. Our resource library is also being revamped too. So it's easily searchable by audience and topic as well. So we're hoping that makes it a lot quicker and easier to find the things that you're looking for. The site has also been designed with the highest web accessibility standards in mind too. So we're hoping that makes things more accessible to more people. So just a couple things to highlight there on the website if you haven't taken a spin through lately. We have just a few minutes left, so I just want to open it up to any final questions before we end for the day. Any final parting thoughts or anything for the good of the group? If you do have questions, if you're interested in, the technical assistance or any training, you can definitely reach out to us. I think Ashley already put her email in the chat. So if you want to maybe drop your email in the chat, just so everybody has it. You can also visit our website. All of our info is there if you need to get in touch with us. We stand ready to help you. I mean, that is the mission and the goal of the mentoring partnership, is to help support amazing organizations like yours doing amazing work for young people in our community. So anything that we can do, I mean, just drop us a line, give us a call. We are here and we are ready to help. So I'll turn it over. I don't know, Ashley, Sophia, if you have any other things that you want to cover before we end for the day. No. Okay.
Thanks for sharing your lunch with us, and take care of yourself today.
Yes.
At the end of the day, let's not forget about self-care.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you all for taking the time today. It was great to see you all.
Bye-bye.
Nice seeing you too.
Thanks.